Welcome to 5 and 5 from the One Stop Co-op Shop, where I discuss 5 key elements of a game in about 5 minutes. I'm Michael Kelly, and today I'm looking at Kradia Wild Hunt Festival, and a quick disclaimer that I was sent a review copy of this one. I initially covered Kradia back during its Kickstarter and enjoyed it then, but did my positive feelings hold up on repeated plays? Let's find out and get to the list. So first at number 5, I'm going to start with a mix, focusing on the campaign system that you can play with. There are other modes and how your characters level up. And on the positive side, there are a lot of cool, interesting resources to manage in the campaign. You have these retainer cards that you can use on a boss, but once you use them, they're gone and you have to survive through 4 bosses. Additionally, your characters don't fully heal at the end of each boss fight unless you manage your mana appropriately. And each character gets an item card after each battle, and you want to conserve those until the right moment. So that's all really cool, but where the campaign play might fall flat for some players is that the leveling up is pretty simple. Each character gets a new ability at level 2 and 3, and then their charge attack gets better at level 4, but playing the same character, you have almost no variety in how they'll level up. And also, if you come to campaign games because you want a great narrative, all you get here is a little blurb kind of discussing why you're fighting the new boss. There's no through line or connection, it's just kind of a bunch of battles. But my number 4 is a pro, and it kind of kicks number 5 in the head, because the thing is, you don't have to play this as a campaign game. They have other great modes in here too. You have the campaigns, which I already mentioned, 2 sets of 4 bosses that you play in order. But then you also have a ton of challenge bosses, which are one-off fights with fully leveled characters and really diverse and crazy effects. And if you really want to challenge yourself, you have Nightmare Mode, 2 bosses who have tons of life and multiple forms and a different battlefield board, crazy stuff. And the bosses themselves feel very diverse. They have tons of unique effects to throw at you, so just a lot of good content in the game overall. And similarly, I have another pro at number 3, and that's the character variety. And while the leveling isn't amazing because it's basically the same each time you use that character, except for a choice of one ability or another, the characters themselves and the teams of 4 you can build are hugely diverse. You have healers, you have attackers, you have people that have their own little henchmen they summon, and it's simply put a lot of fun to try out different mixes and different matchups, because some heroes will really deal with some bosses well, or some parts or stages of bosses well, but not really with other things they can throw at them, and like trying out a team of all healers and tanks, or a team of all attackers with no defense, just a lot of cool combinations you can explore. But I'm back down to a mix for my number 2, and it could go all the way down to a con for some groups. And this one is all about the simplicity of turns and the cooperative nature of the game. And it's funny if you watch my Night Cage review from recently, because this is almost the exact same point. The game is super straightforward to teach because your options on your turn are so simple and limited. You can do a basic attack, roll for a charge attack, or use an ability when you have the right mana, which won't be too often. And the cooperation is also a mixed bag and will depend on your group, because since there's almost no hidden information, you'll definitely have alpha player for some groups. And since you have to always have 4 heroes, playing with 3 or 4 players, especially with how simple the turns are, might feel like you don't do enough, and it might be weird to kind of handle the 4th character. But on the other hand, for groups that like to discuss strategy, or for solo players, the interplay of the character actions and how you have to all coordinate and create combos, and how one ability will lead into another, can make some awesome turns cooperatively. And that leads right into my number 1, a big pro for the game, the thing I loved most when I covered it while I was on Kickstarter, and that's the boss hit point track and how they activate and how it all plays into hero mana. Because in Kradia, bosses have hit points like in most games, but every time you hit them, you change the number of dice they'll roll for their activation. And sometimes you want lower rolls, and sometimes you want higher ones, because you can see what the possibilities of their activation could be, what they might do to you. And then on top of that, most times when you hit a monster, it'll give you either red or blue mana, depending on where their hit point tracker is, and some characters might want a specific color, so you need to talk to each other and be like, oh, can you hold off for a second and do that ability instead of attacking? That way I'll get the exact color I want. Oh, but you shouldn't attack, because if you hurt them, they'll get to a terrible number for us and do their worst activation. And simply put, this all plays into the best aspect of the game, which is that it is an intense tactical puzzle with amazing choices to be made as you try to manage these demonic, horrific bosses. It's just a lot of fun. So overall, I'd recommend Kradia to gamers who like intense boss battlers and intense tactical combat, but without too much complexity and heaviness. I'd also recommend it to players who love exploring a ton of content at a very affordable price with all these characters and all these bosses and all these modes. There's a lot of game here. But on the other hand, you might want to avoid Kradia if you're looking for a heavy strategic experience, or a really long involved campaign like a 40+ hour game, or if you don't like dice luck, because sometimes the roll of the boss's dice can make or break you, although there is some mitigation for that. But if you'd like to see the game in action to help you make that choice yourself, check out the new playthrough that's linked here. Good gaming, and I'll see you at the next stop.